name is Brooke, and in February of 2014, at the age of 22, I found myself with an unplanned pregnancy and chose to go have an abortion. When I got there, there were 2 or 3 women that were standing off the premises because they weren't allowed to stand in the parking lot, advocating for life. They were pro-life. They had posters, they had pamphlets, they had all different kinds of stuff, and I wanted to walk over to them, but as soon as I turned my head to look to them, the security guard for the clinic actually, I guess, thought he was rescuing me and took me in the clinic. I waited in the waiting room for about 45 minutes. I was then taken back to do a pregnancy test and have an ultrasound completed. I saw the screen and was wanting to watch her do the ultrasound. I hadn't felt the baby move, and I wasn't even sure that it was viable, but I saw something move, and as soon as I did, she turned the screen and would not let me see. I waited for about 4 hours in the next room with multiple women who were speaking of this is the second or third time that they had been there. After 4 hours of waiting, I was taken back to a room for the procedure to be done. The nurse who was with me, or the assistant, said that she usually left and sent someone else in to assist the doctor, but she was super nice and acted as if she really cared about me and what I was going through, but she didn't know what she was doing. The doctor came in and was total opposite, didn't introduce herself at all. She wheeled over what looked like a big box, but it was a vacuum, and turned on the worst sound that I've ever heard in my entire life. It was the most painful thing ever. But while that nurse held my hand, I really felt like Jesus laid his head on my chest and was praying, interceding for me. And he said, "Father, forgive her. She knows not what she does." I think that hurt me more than the physical pain. I'm so thankful for forgiveness. Thank you for what you do. Until I attended the post-abortive recovery class at Options, there were a lot of things that I didn't realize were spiraling, issues that I had that I did not realize came from what I'd gone through. And so for about 5 years, I suffered from extreme anxiety, codependency, a lot of issues with anger that I could never explain where it came from. And going through that program, I found healing within the Bible study that we actually did in that class. Whenever I went to Options on Main, I started the 8-week abortion recovery class. It was through a book that's actually called Surrendering the Secret. Within the class, I was probably the youngest, or I was the youngest, and I was the one who had had an abortion most recently. It was pretty rough on me to talk about it. I feel like it was just as rough for the other women. It had been, 20 and 30 years for them. But it's ironic to me how much that our stories were alike in the things that we had gone through, no matter the time difference. The same things that may have haunted us over the years, or things that we dealt with within ourselves and with other people as well, just in everyday life, that had come from having an abortion. There were really hard times in the class, studies that you would go home to do, and it was not comfortable at all. But it's so worth it. And other times there were very enlightening evenings that we had that there may have been tears or may not have been tears, and it was just laughter. I have brought a friend now to options who wasn't necessarily full abortion minded, but she had thought about it. And I brought her to options. I went with her, and I just sat in the waiting room, interceding on her behalf, praying that she would come out of there with a changed mind. And she's 23 weeks pregnant now. And I would suggest that to anyone. Options offers free services that some people don't realize are free, and that what's out there for them, and advice and help, material things, spiritual things. My friend still receives text messages interacting with the center, and I'm so thankful for them for doing that. But that would be what I would suggest, is for someone to go to options. I don't believe that a lot of women, especially young girls who end up in an unplanned pregnancy, realize what their options are. I think that they're just in fear and of not knowing the next step, fear of financial issues, what people will think of them. And I know that because I've been there, but I would never make that decision again. And I would do anything to help someone to not make that decision themselves.